What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I have some exciting stuff to talk about. And today we're talking about a potential free agent target Detroit Lions could be looking at, and that is Jabaal Sheard. So let's get it started. What is up, everyone? Welcome into the video. I'm glad you guys clicked on today's video. And today we're talking about a potential free agent signing for the Detroit Lions. Now, we were doing more of these earlier in the offseason, but these kind of died off when free agency kind of died off. But there is a chance with the money the Lions have that they go out and sign one more free agent. And I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I don't see the Lions going out and giving a multi-year, maybe 2 years at max. Any more than that, probably not, to any free agent. And if they do, it won't be a lot of money. I don't see the Lions going to Clowney. I don't see them going to spend a lot of money because they have guys like Taylor Decker and Kenny Galladay who are going to need extensions, possibly Marvin Jones Jr. They're going to have to make some extensions, and because of that, I don't see the Lions will necessarily go after a big money, long-term type of free agent, right? If they would have, they probably would have did that earlier. But I still do see a chance the Lions go after a veteran player that they could bring in on cheap that could potentially help out and give you maybe a little bit more push to hopefully get over, the edge or the cliff or whatever you need, whatever, you want to say there, because the Lions are in a big year. And hey, if you got some extra money laying around and you want to improve your team, maybe you can do that with a veteran player. And today's video, we were talking about Jabaal Sheard. Now, Jabaal Sheard makes a lot of sense because there is one position on the Lions that people would probably say we could use a little bit more help. It's the defensive line / edge rusher position. And the reason that's usually brought up is because that is the one position where we have a lot of question marks. Either players, we haven't seen much there because they had to deal with injuries, or rookies, maybe they're from new teams, but they're young. Just a lot of question marks. The whole defensive line / edge rusher position is a lot of question marks between Deshaun Hand, Romeo Okwara, Julian Okwara, Austin Bryant. It's never a bad thing to bring in pass rushers, right? Bob Quinn talked about that. You can never have too many pass rushers. You can mix guys in. You can fill them in when someone gets tired. It's a great thing. And this guy also has some Patriot ties, so we might as well talk about him. Also, he has Brown ties, which is weird. You know what? I don't know if y'all are noticing this, but I feel like if a player was with the Browns, he's probably ended up with the Patriots and played really well. And if you're with the Patriots, you're probably going to end up with the Lions. I don't know. I just see ties there. Maybe that's not true. I just see it a lot. Anyways, let's talk about Jabaal Sheard. He's 31 years old, which is the same age as Mike Daniels, maybe to put it in perspective a little bit. Jabaal Sheard was with the Indianapolis Colts last season, who I think run more of a 4-3. He played more of a defensive end from what I saw. Last season, he had 25 total tackles, 4.5 sacks in 12 games for the Indianapolis Colts. Solid numbers in that amount of games. Now, he does miss a few games here and there, and as you get older, you'll see that, right? Older players, veterans, they're going to miss a few games here and there, which 12 games isn't bad. Last season was a knee injury. They didn't put him on IR, at least they said they weren't going to put him on IR, but he had a couple of games that he did miss for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I did go back and watch some Colts film. I also watched some film when he was with the New England Patriots because I think that's important to see how he would probably fit into our defense because, that's usually what it's going to look like when he ends up being a Detroit Lion, if he ends up being a Detroit Lion. He is a 6'3", 268-pound defensive end. Now, I found a lot of different, places where I could see like 6'2", 250. That didn't seem right. He seemed way bigger than 250. So I kept looking, and that's the one I came across, 6'3", 268. I think that's more realistic because that's very similar to Trey Flowers' size, which is 6'2", 269. So I think that one's more realistic. The first one that I saw, which was 6'2", 250, is closer to Romeo, but again, that's even smaller than Romeo. So I don't think he's that small. He looks bigger than that when you watch him. So I'm going this is 6'3", 268. Now, like I said, have a couple of injury concerns, but he does have some versatility, and he probably would actually help out the Detroit Lions if you're hoping that Mike Daniels would last year. Maybe this is our new Mike Daniels, but hopefully it works out a little bit better because I feel like last year it didn't work out so great. And we could bring back Mike Daniels. If you guys want to see a video on that, make sure you let me know as well because we definitely could. So from 2011 to 2014, he was a Cleveland Brown, where he was drafted in the second round. 2015 to 16, he was with the New England Patriots. And then after that, since then, he's been in Indianapolis Colts. They decided not to bring him back, and that is why he is now a free agent. So we're going to talk about some of the strengths and weaknesses I took away. I also want to throw in his PFF numbers, Pro Football Focus numbers, from last season and his years with the New England Patriots because some people really like to hear those. So let's do it. Last season, in the year where he had 25 total tackles and 4.5 sacks, which was last season with Indianapolis, keep in mind he was 30 years old. He was given a 61.2 overall grade, a 47.7 against the run, which is really bad, which is kind of weird because it looks like at times that's his strength, and also a 63.5 in pass rush. Now, again, he missed a few games. He was 30 years old. Maybe he wasn't in the right scheme because he did seem to thrive with the New England Patriots. In 2015, his first year as a Patriot, he was given an 79.8 overall, which is extremely good. Like, that's an incredibly high grade. 77.9 against the run and 86.6 in rush. He did have 8 sacks that year. And then in 2016, his second year as a New England Patriot, 75.7 overall, 68 against the run, 65.3 in pass rush, and he had 6 sacks. So some pretty good numbers with the Patriots again, though he was younger. So keep that in mind. And 51% of the snaps in 2015 and 56% in 2016. So some solid snap counts. He's played a lot more with Indianapolis. So kind of weird, but I do think that kind of tells you that, okay, he was a little bit better with the Patriots. Was that because it was a scheme necessarily, or was it because he was younger and he was just playing at a higher level? When I watched him in some Colts games and some Patriots games, I'm going to kind of, reference both here and kind of put him into one, because I think it's important to look at what he did recently. That way you know more what you're getting. But I also think it's important to see what he did with the Patriots, because again, that's probably what he's going to do with the Lions if he was signed here. Now, the first thing is his stout run D. This was something that Colts fans really liked about him. They thought that his run defense was really impressive, but his run defense was good. And I don't think it was necessarily that he was like a run stuffer defensive lineman, because he's not. He also plays on the edge. He can stand up. He can do a lot of different things. I don't think he's like necessarily a run stuffer, but when you watch him, he has really good play recognition. He's a smart player. He's aware. He knows when it's a run, and he's able to shoot through the gap. One thing that I saw great, I actually watched this clip on the Colts, website when they put this out. That one thing that he did was he was able to recognize screens pretty well. And if the screen was thrown to one side, he was able to get over there. Instead of when you run a screen, the job of the offense is to kind of let the pass rush get to the quarterback. That way the lineman can go out and block. But if a defensive lineman can recognize that, okay, this is a screen, they're leaving for a reason, instead of going to the quarterback, they can drop over to the running back and try to take that away and stop the screen, before it even happens. And sometimes that's when you see really big plays defensively, and that's where the risk can come in. So that's huge. His play recognition is there, and obviously when you get older, he gets smarter, right? He's learning more and more. And I feel like once you hit your 30s, man, you kind of know a lot of different things. You just know what to expect, what to look for. So that's huge. Obviously, that's where the veteran, leadership and stuff like that comes into play to kind of piggyback on that. He was a guy that was a great locker room presence for the Indianapolis Colts, and that's why it was a tough decision what to do with Jabaal Sheard, because he was a great mentor for young guys. He was a great leader. He could definitely help and improve what young guys did, right? And that's something that a lot of people like with Everson Griffin, because they think they would get that as well. And that's huge, right? We have a lot of young guys. I just talked about the reason that we're thinking of adding someone here is because we don't know what the heck we're going to get from it. But if you have a guy that can teach some of those younger players, continue to improve, like a Jamie Collins will, like Duron Harmon will, it's great. And it seems like we have a lot of those guys at every position. We brought in Danny Shelton, but Matt Patricia kind of talked about, and Bob Quinn, how, the offseason, it could be a short offseason, so you want guys that are patriotized, that can fit in right away, that know the scheme, that can help out other players, because it may not be a long offseason. So to keep that kind of going, adding a guy like Jabaal Sheard that's been with the Patriots, knows what they've brought from him. He has a, familiarness with Matt Patricia. I'm not sure what the relationship is, but it could be a good one. But again, he knows what he's looking for from Matt Patricia, because Patricia was there when Jabaal Sheard was there. So they know what they're asking from him. They know what, the defense is going to look like. And again, he can help out some of those defensive linemen, because even though Shelton was a Patriot, he's still pretty young, right? This is not an older veteran type of guy in my eyes. So Sheard could definitely give you a different look. And he plays, different from Danny Shelton. Danny Shelton's more of a nose tackle type of guy, while Jabaal Sheard is more of an edge rusher, right? He's more of an edge presence that he can play on and off the line. Now, again, this is more of a Patriot thing, but again, he can play on and off the line. We know we run a 3-4 with the multiple defenses, built kind of out of it. And we do a lot of different things. We play to strengths of our players. So the great thing is that you can drop him down on the defensive line like a Trey Flowers, but you can also stand him up and you can back him up as an edge rusher. You can have him play as a linebacker, or you can have him play on the defensive line. And that versatility is huge. Again, I'm using that word again because I know some of y'all love that word. Strength. Now, this is more pass rushing when I see this. It helps him in the run for sure, but when I watch him pass rush and what he had successful, which was with the Indianapolis Colts, also with the Patriots as well, was when he was more of a bull rusher. I never saw him as a crazy speed guy. He did have more speed, obviously, when he was younger, and when he got older with the Patriots and his pass rush rate went down, he seemed to become more of a bull rusher, and that's where I see a lot of his success. He seems to kind of go into the offensive lineman. He seems to get good positioning, get good leverage. He's able to kind of push the offensive lineman out of the way, and then he's able to work his way back to the quarterback. That's when I saw success, against a lot of offensive tackles. So for me, he's got really good strength for his size. Now, let's stop into the cons, because unfortunately, he does have some cons, and there is a reason that he is still a free agent. He was available. The first one is his pass rush rate, which I just talked about. It completely decreased. He went from having an 8.1% pass rush win rate to 6.3% in 2019. Definitely a pretty big drop off there as well. So keep that in mind. His age, he's 31 years old. At 30 years old, 30 plus, you don't necessarily know. There could be injury concerns. There could be a drop off in play, which we kind of saw last year. There's a lot of concerns around guys that are a little bit older. So there's always that risk reward. Yes, you can get a guy that helps you with veteran presence, and they're going to give you that. But if you're really putting a big, if you're putting him out there and saying, okay, we really need you to play well for us, there's always a chance that, yeah, he might get hurt, or he may not be the same player that we've seen before, because at this point, he just continues to get older and older. He's not getting younger. But what I do like is that I don't think he's necessarily going to be put in that position with the Lions pass rush. We need you to be great, because if you're not great, our pass rush won't be great. I don't see that. I think we do have some talent around him. So I see him as more of a guy that he's going to give you that leadership, which we necessarily need. We need that above everything else to me. That's what I think we need, because we have the guys with the potential. We just need to kind of pull it out of them. And I think a guy like Jabaal Sheard could help you. And when he got later in his career, he was less of a pass rushing dominant kind of player. He was less of one of those guys that offensive linemen, feared, like, oh snap, this guy, watch out for this that pass rusher. To me, when he got older in his career, he was more like, okay, this guy can help in the run stopping. He can help run stuff. He can help there. Again, I never thought he was a great run stuffer, but that's where he was more effective. And I think that really comes down to just being more aware. As he gets older, he loses some of that speed and ability and agility to get around offensive tackles, but he also gets smarter. He's more intelligent. He's able to read plays, recognize plays, read the gaps, see where the ball's going, and he's able to make plays on the football by just his intelligence to beat the running back to his spot and, find the open holes or where the running back is planning to go through. So all of that together, put that all in the one. Should the Detroit Lions sign Jabaal Sheard? I would say I would not have a problem with it if it's a cheap deal. Again, I don't think the Lions are going to go expensive. I don't think Jabaal Sheard would be super expensive. Honestly, I'd be good with it. I'd also probably be good with bringing back Mike Daniels depending on the price. But again, I think all these are going to be low. And the reason I like this is because it's cheap. You don't necessarily, I think, need him. It's more for that leadership and mentorship that he's going to give some of the young guys. So to me, bringing in Jabaal Sheard would be a good move. I would have no problems with it whatsoever. So I would do it for sure if, his physical comes out well and everything comes out well with him when they definitely check him out. But I would have no problem with bringing him in once again to, kind of just have an older guy in there that people can kind of, jump on and rely on. And they're like, oh yeah, this is the guy that we can look up to, because we don't have Snacks anymore, who's kind of that guy. We have Shelton. I mean, Shelton to me isn't necessarily an older guy. He's still a younger guy in the defensive line position. You do have Nick Williams, who's 30, but up until last season, this guy really hasn't done anything, right? That's no hate to him, but I'm just saying, and he's more of an interior guy. Sheard is that presence on the outside that we really don't have with age. Romeo, Austin Bryant, Julian Okwara. Which one of those guys has been in the league for a while and just knows their way around? I think this is a position the Lions could look at to improve, and I think Jabaal Sheard would help. So with the Patriot ties, I could definitely see the Lions being interested, and I would be okay with it. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.